Do you struggle to sleep at night? Perhaps it's because your partner needs something to combat their snoring problem. Are you confused about which supplements you should be taking? Do you want to find the right kind of exercise equipment for your home? Or maybe you're just looking for the best electric shaver. Which has hundreds of product reviews to keep you fit, eat well, sleep better, and everything in between. Just head to which.co.uk/health to read our expert insight and independent reviews. Get expert advice and recommendations to live your best life every day with Which.
Paying for fuel isn't getting any cheaper, so this is what you need to do to save money while you drive. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Which Shorts, the podcast that gives you a free weekly insight into our suite of magazines. This week I'm bringing you a piece that Dino Burati wrote for the bumper December-January issue of Which magazine, all about the ways you can make driving cheaper. If you find yourself spending too much on fuel or filling up more often than you'd like, there are plenty of ways you can make a tank of fuel go further with some quick and easy changes to your driving habits. Here's Dino's piece, adapted for the podcast, this week read by me, James Rowe. Let's start at the start. When you turn the key or push the start button, you don't need to wait for your engine to warm up before you set off in most modern cars. Not only would it increase engine wear, but it's also a waste of fuel. Just start your car and then set off. Even in winter, it is cheaper to use a de-icer and an ice scraper than to turn on your engine and rely on the car's heater to do the job. Once you're on the move, get used to changing gears earlier rather than later. Doing this will improve your fuel efficiency, so try changing gear at around 2000 RPM on flat roads. If your engine struggles to cope with this, try a slightly higher RPM instead. So-called short shifting from first gear to third, or from second to fourth, can also save fuel, as can obeying your car's gear shift indicator if it has one. Don't just ignore it. It is there to help you. Sticking with your driving style, try to accelerate smoothly and avoid harsh throttle inputs. As a general guide, keep the revs between 1,500 and 2,500 RPM in a petrol car and between 1,200 and 2,000 RPM in a diesel. Aim to avoid any harsh braking too, as this increases your fuel usage. Reading the road in front of you should stop you from having to brake unnecessarily. Of course, some harsh braking may be inevitable, but if you're coming up to a set of traffic lights, try to coast, with the car still in gear, to a stop rather than braking. You may even find that you don't need to stop the car at all if the lights go green in time, and you won't use as much fuel accelerating again. Just be aware of traffic behind you. If a vehicle is particularly close, it is a good idea to show your brake lights when slowing down by lightly braking. Gentle acceleration and avoiding unnecessary braking applies to electric cars too. Plus, relying on regenerative braking in an electric car will also help maximise range and the lifespan of your mechanical brakes. While you're driving, use a sat-nav. This is more so when you're driving somewhere unfamiliar. Not only do most tell you the quickest route, but most can also reroute you on the fly, helping you to avoid traffic jams and accidents. Some models can even select the most economical route and will avoid fuel-sapping obstacles such as large hills and areas with heavy stop-start traffic. When you do pull in for fuel, aim to avoid the pricier premium fuel. Yes, there's no harm in using it, but there's usually little benefit either, unless you drive a high-performance or imported car that specifically requires a higher octane rating than standard unleaded. So for most drivers, given that super unleaded typically costs 10 to 15 pence more per litre than normal unleaded, avoiding the premium pumps is definitely going to save you money. It is worth noting though that the ethanol content of regular petrol has been increased to 10%. You'll see it labelled as E10. If you drive a particularly old or classic car, you may need to opt for premium unleaded, as that has remained at 5% or E5. And while supermarket petrol stations are convenient, they may not always offer the cheapest fuel. Some independent forecourts can undercut them. So make sure you check fuel prices on websites such as petrolprices.com or use your sat-nav to show live fuel prices for forecourts along the route if it has this function. When you pull over for fuel, or even better before you start your journey, make sure you check your tyre pressures. You should be doing this regularly to make sure it matches what's stated in the manual. If you don't have the manual, don't worry, you can usually find tyre pressures on door pillars or behind fuel filler caps. Cars with underinflated tyres use more fuel to move forward to compensate for higher rolling resistance. An incorrectly inflated tyre will also affect your car's braking performance and is likely to wear prematurely or unevenly, meaning you'll need to change them more often. Keep on top of other car maintenance too. Ensure your car is regularly maintained according to its service schedule. Aside from reducing the potential for big bills further down the line, a newly serviced car with clean oil and fresh filters will run more efficiently. Some manufacturers also provide winter checks on their cars, where a dealer will examine your car to check if it's safe to drive in wintry conditions. And finally, consider going electric if you can. If you're in the market for a new car, you can reduce running costs by making the switch to an EV, but only if you can charge at home. It's simply not cost effective to buy an EV if you have to rely on public charging stations alone. Thanks for listening to this podcast from Which, the UK's consumer champion. You can find plenty more advice about what we discussed today in the show notes. There you'll also find a link to become a Which member for 50% off the usual price, an offer exclusively available to you, our podcast listeners. Joining Which will not only give you access to all of our product reviews, our app, one-to-one personalised buying advice and every issue of Which magazine across the air, but you'll also be helping us to make life simpler, fairer and safer for everyone. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you're listening, that way you'll be notified whenever we release a new episode of Which Money, Which Shorts or another podcast that we make for you. And if you want to get in touch with us, then follow us on social media, we're at Which UK, or you can drop us an email to podcasts@which.co.uk. See you next time.
If you're enjoying this podcast from us here at Which, then why not become a Which member? Right now, we've got a special offer, especially for podcast listeners, meaning you can choose any of our 3 membership tiers for 50% off the usual price. Starting at just £39.50 for a full year, you can get Which magazine delivered direct to your door. For the same price, you could also choose a digital Which subscription, giving you access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, and the digital edition of Which magazine. What's more, you'll also be able to use the Ask Which service for personalised one-to-one buying advice. Or why not get a full access Which subscription for just £49.50 for a full year? Don't forget, that's 50% off the usual price. To join Which or to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer. Or click the link in the description for today's podcast for 50% off a Which annual subscription.